Well, welcome everyone. I'm Frank Fear, and we're so pleased to have you here for what we know is going to be a very invigorating conversation about music as change agent. And you'll see I have two colleagues with me, Paul Babladelis. Thank you, Paul, for joining us.
Thanks, Frank.
And Jennifer Hudson-Prenkert. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining us too.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's just great to have you both. They certainly have a lot to say about this very important topic. You know, most of us, I do, I have to admit it, think about music as entertainment. But any of us who is involved, or any of you who are involved in social change, you know that music is a lot more than that. And I made a short list of the kinds of attributes I think that music, when it's connected to change, has. I'll just read some of this. It can inspire you, it stimulates, it educates, it galvanizes and connects people, it celebrates, it agitates, it truth tells, isn't that true? And becomes an anthem for change. And so that's the focus of our program today. We're going to go back and forth between talking about music as change agent, and then we're actually going to feature several of Paul's songs, several that he wrote, and Jennifer is going to engage in the conversation as well, and I will too. So let's start by turning to Paul. Say a few words about yourself, give us background.
Well, thanks, Frank. I've been doing music for a long time now, and really participated in the late 60s and the early 70s in the rock and roll movement. And in those days, we sensed a lot of connection with change and with energy, and getting on a stage and bringing people together and delivering a political message at the same time with the music. We also used music in the early 70s for free concerts that wound up with food co-ops and all kinds of other social things spinning off, including some of the music festivals that, like the Wheatland Festival in Michigan, which was one of the early and still going music festivals. So that was the beginning of the journey that took me to California in the 1970s, and has kept on going right now in Costa Rica more than anywhere.
Excellent. Tremendous background, Paul. So I'm pleased to have you here. Jennifer, let's turn to you.
So I have a little different story. I consider myself, I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan, or I should say I live here now, but I think of myself as a Renaissance artist, in the sense that I kind of touch base on a little bit of everything. My background started with dance, with theater and singing, which led me to Western Michigan University, where I graduated with a BA in the dance program. I then pursued a professional modern dance career with a local modern dance company called Wellspring. Once I decided to move on, because I fell back on my theater experience, I've been working with the community theater here called the Civic Theater in Kalamazoo, as well as Farmers Alley Theater, which is a professional equity theater. From there, I decided I wanted to even focus more on music, and had the opportunity to create a music scene at Arcadia Brewing Company here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I developed a weekly, monthly, and eventually a summer music concert series. And that really, I've always had a passion for music. My family's in the arts. My dad's a musician. I grew up with music. And I currently also sing myself in a cover band. And so I met a group of people, a production company that I got involved with, and we created this amazing platform. And I was able to meet Paul through that, and really appreciated his music and what he brought and his kindness. I was starting kind of something really raw, and my mission statement that I came up with, just had to read it, was that our mission was to provide a positive and supportive environment for a diverse group of musicians and other artists to share their art through live performance with the community. And that's exactly what Paul did, and has developed into a friendship. And I think we both now are pursuing this social, change with music. So that's where we're at.
Tremendous. I'm smiling because it's just a tremendous opportunity to have both of you here. Paul, you and I started talking about putting this program together a few months ago. And we talked about, back in the 60s, music was center stage when you think about social change and protest, the Vietnam War. And I just made a list of some of the songs from the 60s. And what was interesting is the music got into the mainstream. It wasn't just off to the side, but songs like Blown in the Wind with Bob Dylan and Peter, Paul, and Mary, Ohio, which focused on the Kent State Massacre by Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, Respect by Aretha Franklin, Say It Loud, I'm Black and Proud, James Brown. And that's just, I mean, it's just a few of the songs. And one of the things we talked about, and I mentioned this also to Jennifer, is that those songs are still out there today. They haven't gone away, but they may not be occupying the mainstream, but I may be overemphasizing it. So talk about music as change agent in an era gone by, and also music as change agent in the current era. And this will set us up for having an opportunity to listen to several of Paul's songs. Why don't we start with Jennifer on that and then go back to Paul?
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with Paul earlier about this same thing. And I really personally feel, I mean, you know, there's a little bit of age difference, but where the way I grew up and was educated with music and my own endeavors, I don't feel, I mean, there is a change, obviously, from the past to some degree, but I've managed to stay in like in a platform, I guess, where people really do have a social conscience. And so I definitely now pick music and bands that really influence me like that. And one of the main avenues I discovered was kind of, they call it the jam band scene, which really translates into live music performance. And they do have a station now dedicated to that on Sirius Radio, and it's called Jam On. I wasn't really understanding what that meant at first, but then I started realizing it was about just, they only record live performances, which is very invigorating, even on a radio show. And then from there, I realized that it was starting to change even in the jam band scene. There was more diversity with music. And so, you know, for me, I don't feel like I mean, there's a difference, but now we're in this really heavy political, social climate, you know, disruption, dysfunction that we're really needing that. And I still think it's relevant. I kind of made some notes to myself of some of the people I could say. One came to mind was David Byrne from the Talking Heads, has always been very experimental, and most recently came out with it's called American Utopia, a concert film by Spike Lee that was a Broadway show. And it has a diverse group of musicians from around the world creating this really tangible, very stripped down, but still with lights and really interesting dynamics in music that really just engages the audience. It's not so much the politicalness, but just bringing joy. And that's something that's very current. And he's someone that has been around for a while. I look into, so like the bluegrass scene, that's been a real interesting explosion in that jam scene with music festivals. There's a band called Green Sky Bluegrass. People say that a lot, get it mixed up. They're from Kalamazoo, but they're really explosive, and they call what they do is jam grass. So it's all acoustic instruments, but it's in a rock and roll-ish sort of format. There's another gentleman named Billy Strings, who's current, but really all of these people are utilizing their influences from the past, from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And I mean, when I think of mainstream, I think of Mumford and Sons as someone who's crossed over to more like Billboard, you know, making top hits, Avett Brothers, to Ben Harper, which is, Paul has a song that he covered from Ben Harper, Who Leads Me Into Jack Johnson, Michael Franti and Spearhead. I mean, I kind of, you know, just, it's amazing to me. And you have like Buena Vista Social Club that was with Ry Cooder, the Gypsy Kings. And so I think it really is very open. I think there's a lot happening, more than maybe people realize.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for that super summary. Paul.
Well, I agree that the music is there, and the quality music and the intensity and the diversity. I think it's almost reflective of the larger society and technology that we now have so many streams and so much access to music that it's not like having one channel, an FM channel, or an album or two to pick from. There's so much music out there that it's difficult to have the impact that a Dylan had, for instance, as you bring up Dylan. And I'm not sure about music coming to the forefront politically as it once did. It seems that there are prices to be paid today by a large portion of the society if the music doesn't agree with your point of view one way or the other. And that's something I've intentionally tried to address and tried to minimize that and pick things that you can't say it's over here or over there. It's human rather than political, one way or the other.
That last point is really, all of your points are really important. But that last point is something that I hadn't thought about before, and I should have, and that is the price to be paid by speaking out. And one of the things that you mentioned in the conversation we had a few weeks ago, which I think is really important, you can say things in song that otherwise you wouldn't be able to say or say as easily in a conversation, or even let's say in an op-ed or a published article of some other form. And so what you really have is that music can be quite direct. It is direct in ways that other forms may not be as direct. And you know, that I think that's a really important point. Jennifer, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with Paul 100%. And I think, I guess from my point of view, I just noticed that, you know, I didn't live during the 60s. You know, I don't have that background to talk about, but I know that most of the bands and the people that I admire, that I research, all are inspired by that. So maybe it's not right, you know, in the forefront of it. Maybe there probably will never be a Dylan in that sense, but I think that his influence and all of those people, you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and I mean, they're all, you know, there's a band in particular that I've been following called Lark and Poe, and they're two young ladies and they're sisters, and they started getting their, I guess, music recognized by doing covers on YouTube. And I mean, their wheelhouse of music is all in that 60s genre, which blew me away because they're so young. And so, and now they're writing their own music. So it's just, I find that that's really interesting. I'm seeing a trend of people covering songs because of the meaning, and then also being able to write their own. So it's an interesting shift.
Oh boy, thanks for that amplification. I was thinking too that it's interesting. My wife Kathy and I were driving to New York City, and we got caught in a huge traffic jam. And I hate to say it, I'm dating myself here. It was 1969. And we couldn't figure out why in this rural area there was such a traffic jam. Well, it was Woodstock. It was a traffic jam to get in Woodstock. And as I thought about that the other day, I said to myself, and this links back to your point, Paul, about paying a price. What if Jimi Hendrix were alive today and he performed the Star Spangled Banner the way he did at Woodstock? There would be an incredible response to that. And there would be disrespectful would be the response, I think, as well as a lot of cheers because of that. But it is that one of those, and there were many indelible circumstances associated with Woodstock, but that was definitely one. Well, thanks for that background. That really helps, puts a nice framework. Let's now dive into, do a deep dive into Paul's work. And let's start with My Own Two Hands. Now, of the three that we're going to be playing today, this is not one you wrote. The other three you actually wrote, but this is a song that you have very strong feelings about. So if you could provide background to My Own Two Hands, what it means, who wrote it, why you decided to perform it. Paul, please.
Well, I chose My Own Two Hands primarily because it's something we can all relate to. It cuts across backgrounds, and people can, for the most part, realize if we're going to make a better world, we're going to have to do it together. We're not going to wait for somebody else to do it. We need to do it. And it comes to things like kindness. It comes to things like cleaning up the planet. It has to do with I can make peace on earth with my own two hands. That we're all engaged in this effort. And I was trying to look for something that resonated on a human level, and again, avoided the political wheelhouses, which to me can become very distracting, looking for what it is that we can agree upon. What I did do is put a twist in it by writing a Spanish verse, because I said, I believe that we're all Americans, North America, Central America, South America, we're all Americans. And we have this common heritage, really, and the Latino base in the U.S. continues to grow. And I think that we can be multicultural, multilingual, and that we can embrace ideas together. And that was why I changed that one verse and perform it that way.
Fantastic. Jennifer, do you want to add anything before we go to the cut?
No, I just think that that song, I mean, I know it's Ben Harper, but just the relevancy of My Own Two Hands. I mean, it sounds maybe a little cliche, but I think it just takes one person, plant one seed. But when you do it yourself, you know, it's so much more meaningful. And then you realize I need help with that. But if you're the one that can actually plant a seed, like to me, what we're doing right now is planting a seed. We're three of us making a conversation happen about something that we really believe in is where it starts.
Yeah. And it really is an anthem. I talked earlier about music as an anthem because it's really a declaration. I was just reading the other day. I was really surprised by this when I first read it, but then I said, maybe not. International organization did a analysis of registered American voters and found that only 8% of our electorate in this country can be classified as progressive activists. When you think about all the work that needs to be done, it doesn't mean that only progressives are involved in active work, but there are a whole variety of people who are involved in activism, but the activism is to protect the status quo, not to reform or transform. It's to protect the status quo. 8% is amazing, but what the song does, Paul, and you'll hear this as you sing it, it basically says very clearly, we can do it. Each one of us can do it with our own two hands. So, yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm not sure if I gave credit to Ben Harper for writing that. This is a Ben Harper song, and he does so much good work. I want to be sure I mentioned that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, audience, let's then move into it. We're going to listen to Paul singing My Own Two Hands. Do you want to give credit to your background group as well, who joined you in that?
Sure. We have on harmonica, Ken Kornheiser, Dr. K, we call him, Joe Bradley on drums, and Jacob Sellner on bass.
Great, super.
This was recorded in Hudsonville, Michigan, as part of a public TV station called Hometown Pickin'.
Very good. Thanks, Paul. Let's listen to it right now.
Change the world with my own two hands, make a better place with my own two hands, make a kinder place with my own two hands, with my own two hands. I can make peace on earth with my own two hands. I can clean up the earth with my own two hands. I can reach out to you with my own two hands, with my own two hands. Gonna make it a better place with my own, gonna make it a brighter place with my own, gonna help the human race with my own two hands. Con mis dos manos, limpiar el mundo más. Con mis dos manos, ayudar a ti. Con mis dos manos, con mis dos manos. Vamos a mejorar el mundo, vivir en un buen futuro. Ayudar y cariñar con mis dos manos. hands make a better place. With our own two hands make a kinder place. With our own two hands. With our own two hands. With our own, gonna make it a better place. With our, gonna make it a brighter place. With our, gonna help the human race. With our own two hands. We gotta do it together. With our own two hands. With our own two hands. All right, thank you.
That was fantastic, Paul. As always, your work is just spectacular. I have to join Jennifer in affirming your capacity in the band is terrific too. So let's go on to the next song, which is a very different song with it's almost like hands off certain people, but the song is entitled What They Do Best. And the they here has a very, very different reference to it. And that's why we wanted to juxtapose the two. So Paul, talk to us about what the song What They Do Best is all about. You wrote it and performed it. So talk about it, please.
Yeah, What They Do Best. It was a plea for people to think about who represents them politically, and do those people have their interests in mind, or the planet's interests in mind, or some other interest in mind. And again, I do not believe that this is in a particular political wheelhouse, because I think that many people who are conservatives love the planet. They want a clean environment. And of course, almost all of the progressive people I know have recognized the need to protect the planet, that it's essential for our own human life, that we are totally interconnected. And so the song centers around three primary issues. One was pollution in Appalachia, which takes many forms. Of people who follow it would know. And the fact that many of the court cases have come out protecting those who have done the pollution, if you just follow the trail. The second one was about the tar sands, but it's not only about that, it's about water protectors. It's, in my opinion, it's about what can be done to the environment and who is paying the price and who is reaping the profits. And the third issue was fracking. And so I took these three issues, and there's abundant evidence to see how it really came out. And I asked the question, basically, who's protecting the planet? And I referred to the crooked politicians doing what they do best. That's not all politicians. That's the people who would put money over people and planet.
Yeah, an anthem for sure. Jennifer, your comments about this very intriguing and very, very relevant song.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that you hear every day, you know. And like I said before, when I was doing music at Arcadia, I was really impressed with Paul's message. And I do believe that music is is a healer, and there's a way to speak to people. I mean, you know, not to get too deep about it, but sound therapy is a real thing, and the melodies and the vibrations and the way that it makes someone feel sometimes can open you up to maybe hearing a message or even being a little bit unconscious about it. But it's still, it's bringing the conversation in a way that is, you can hear it. And so regardless of maybe your beliefs, you could maybe take something in that you might not have before when it's in that kind of environment, in a music kind of place. So I think it's really relevant, and I'm very grateful that, you know, it's one of the reasons I agree to do this is I'm a fan of Paul and his band as well. So I think it's really important that we keep this kind of music happening.
Yeah, and one of the things too is that if the lyrics don't get you, then the melody will, and you can just start playing the song back in your mind. But the other thing that's really important here is music is education. My wife Kathy and I lived in West Virginia, and we pay attention to what's going on there. But a lot of people don't know what's happening in West Virginia, just picking one state, with respect to the variety of environmental issues, even in the state capital, Charleston, with the Kanawha River. and the challenges that people face there in terms of their drinking water and what came from it. And then, I mean, there have been documentaries made about it, but sometimes people don't watch those documentaries. So again, this is a song that educates. Paul, if you have it with you, identify who else with you is performing this song.
I think on that clip, it's the same band as the first one. I'd like to, though, thank Jennifer for bringing the topic that she did bring to the forefront here, which is that music can deliver a message in ways that a dialogue often can't, or a debate, worse yet, or shouting at each other. Sometimes music opens up channels, and there is something magical about it, whether it's vibrations, whatever it is, but it allows, when a performer is performing that song, you can look at the crowd and most people are engaged in what's going on rather than immediately jumping up to argue with you.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting. Years ago, when I was traveling to Ireland, we went into a small village, and the culture of that small village was that newcomers would introduce themselves to residents with a song, and the residents, at least one resident, would introduce themselves to the newcomers with a song. And what was amazing is we as Americans don't do that. We turn to performers to do that. And so there I was singing the MSU fight song because it was the only song that I knew, I felt comfortable that I knew the lyrics to. And they were ever so generous by listening to it as though.
You know, Frank, you bring up a good point, though. That was one of my motivations. I mean, the reason I'm just talking about my Arcadia experiences, because that's where I actually booked the music and had this big inspiration to host this community event to share diverse music. Yeah. And I really wanted to make it that, you know, whether, you know, if you were doing an open mic kind of thing, maybe all the way up to you're a national performer, I wanted to have like the ability to have people come and just share their music with the community. And it was a challenge because it was at a brewery that wasn't really designed to be a music venue. But what I saw and what I learned from that, I'm like still fighting this, not fighting, but I'm still carrying this passion to make this happen in another space. Unfortunately, Arcadia closed. But what I saw the people responding, you know, just everyday people getting up there to be able to sing. And then some people were professionals, some were, I mean, I just think it's all important, you know, and wherever success to me is just playing your music, number one, and number two, wherever you plug it into in the industry, so to speak, you're successful. So I do think that a lot of these smaller venues have been opening up a platform for people just to sing and share and don't have to be professional.
Yeah, it's a way to communicate. You know, we're so, as a former professor, you know, the cognitive approach where we express ourselves through the written word. But with music, you get a chance to express yourself through your emotions, your heart, your soul, your spirit. And what it does is it opens up ways of understanding, knowing, and feeling that sometimes aren't as accessible otherwise. So with that as background, let's listen to what they do best, and then we'll come back after the group performs it.
I went to the valley, I was looking for some rest. But the valley, she was lonely, and she had the smell of death. I said, Mama, can you tell me what in the world has happened here? She said, the poison in the coal mine, I believe they're come from there. And the crooked politicians, they did what they do best. Protect the corporate contributions, and the hell with all the rest. I went to the Northland, where they found tar in the sand. When I saw what they were doing, well, I asked a local man. I said, Father, can you tell me what in the world has happened here? He said they came here from the outside and destroyed what we held dear. And the crooked politicians, they did what they do best. Protect the corporate contributions and the hell with all the rest. Well, they started fracking not so far from my hometown. Then the earth had started moving, rumbling deep down in the ground. And some wells, they got polluted, but the company didn't care. They said, brother, you don't like it, you can move away from there. And the crooked politicians, they did what they do best. Protect the corporate contributions and the hell with all the rest. That's you and me, that's you and me.
Thanks again, Paul and group, for that wonderful performance. We're going to move on now to our third selection, which of the three, I'm not sure it's fair to say I'd rank them. That's not fair, and I wouldn't ask Paul if he would rank them, but there's something about When Are We Gonna Wake Up that I think speaks, let's put it that way, speaks to me mightily. So could you give us background to this song as well, Paul?
Sure. To me, it's somewhat similar to Dylan's Blowing in the Wind. You know, the answer is still blowing in the wind. Well, this one is, when are we going to wake up? And it's a very simple question, but we don't have a very good answer right now. But I think it hopefully inspires us to look for answers. The song is really about equity. It's about social justice. And it's about the interdependencies of people, that if somebody is living really hand to mouth with a hungry belly, it's not only in their interest that I help them, it's in my interest that I help them, because I think the words of the song say, if we don't help one another, we're all going to fall. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. We prosper most when the middle class, when all classes begin to rise and we all have some high quality of life. The fact that we share the planet, we share the water, we share the air. When are we going to wake up to realize that we have this interdependency that is really fundamental to human life? And I think hope there's a positive twist in it that implies we are waking up a little bit, and we're going to wake up more.
Yeah. Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, it is very powerful. When I was listening to Paul, I was just thinking a little while ago too, that Music brings people together of all walks of life and all beliefs. And I really feel that, at least from my personal experience, that this, whether it's about climate or politics or just emotions or your own personal story, it really lives in the festivals, big and small. That I've been at so many festivals. It's something I do. It's like, for me, it's just something I have to experience, of being with people and being a community. And people, the musicians will talk about topics that are uncomfortable or whatever's going on, if it's, the climate, if it's what have you. And it's so beautiful to see the way that everybody responds. They've got different businesses there that, come with their tents, and they'll give out information about things. So it's interesting to me that it might not be out in the forefront, but every person that's there takes that away with them. So I do believe that, and having bands of Paul's caliber at these festivals and things of that nature really do make a big difference. And people are really utilizing, I think, the festival scene to be able to talk and not have anybody muffle or take them off the stage. You know what I mean? It's a place to say what you want to say.
Very well stated. I think about the fact that, this is a theme that's not new, but it needs to be reinforced all the time. Going back to the days of Margaret Mead decades ago, the only thing that changes the world is citizen action. And that's just so true. And we see that even today, that people need to wake up and then take action. It's because of the circumstances today. Being aware is only the first step. And recognizing that a number of people aren't aware. I'm just blown away every time I open up Facebook to see what people. The good thing about Facebook is that people are telling you what they believe and think. So you get a chance to see people, some of whom you do not know, what they're thinking and feeling. At the same time, we need more and more people to wake up, just as your song title has, Paul, and then do something about it. And as you say, Jennifer, it's with others. I mean, there are circumstances when we alone will take action, but really when you think about it in the larger scheme of things, it's in concert with, it's in community, it's in collaboration with, in partnership through, and that's so important, so important.
Because you're starting conversation with people that you can actually turn to after the song is done, or maybe when you're back at your campground or what have you, and talk about that. Or maybe you just talk about when you get home and discuss the experience. Yeah. And it does move you, it does change you. And people, they're talking about recycling at the festivals and trying all these different ways to make people aware. I've really seen a shift, and it's one thing I've really missed this year, that's for sure, aside live performance in general. But
that's right.
I think moving forward, this is a great time to have these discussions, because this is what we can do now. And so when we're able to get back together, we have a clear vision and focus on what needs to be done and do the work.
Yeah. And it's not just the music per se. You mentioned, Jennifer, music festivals. What you have in a variety of lines of work, and this is one, in social activism, people working on the front lines by themselves, working hard, taking their knocks, having their successes. And how wonderful it is for them to come to a festival with other like-minded people to celebrate, to communicate, to collaborate, and have music at the center of all of that. We sometimes dismiss how important that is. And again, it's because our eyes are focusing on music as entertainment. But I know that these gatherings are life-giving in terms of energizing activists and the work they're doing. I mean, it's just incredible. Paul, anything you want to say about it? The band involved, and you wrote this song too.
Yes, and it was recorded in Coweta, Costa Rica, which is on the Caribbean coast. And the musicians, we've all worked together for many years, and in various ways. And I think that it speaks of the diversity. The diversity of the group, the attitude of the region kind of permeates the song. It makes it a good place and good people to do it with. Mm-hmm. The way it closes has the saying, we've just got to wake up and see the reality that everyone is one. Just recognizing not only are we one with the planet, we are one with each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that the diversity is a really important part of that, and really having deep friendships, deep understanding.
Yeah, that's where I think the word commonwealth oftentimes gets misconstrued, wealth meaning money, but it's the wealth of being together, the commonwealth. So it's a terrific song, and our audience is going to have a chance to see it and listen to it right now. Well, that was a terrific performance, and it's a terrific song, Paul. I know you have some additional comments you want to make, so let's turn to you right now.
Well, you asked the composition of the band, but nobody has a last name in Coweta. And so we have Nando on drums, we have Danny on congas, we got Walter on the cowbell, Rennie on guitar, and Jayanti on bass. So that was the band for that song. And the way it came to be is what I wanted to also give thanks and credit to the mill at Vicksburg. There's a project in Vicksburg, Michigan, where they've purchased the old huge paper mill that was in Vicksburg, and they're converting it into an integral part of the community for the arts, of which music is a very big part of that. They're going to be performing arts venues. There's going to be a brew pub, but they're consciously using this project to help build community in Vicksburg. It's a multifaceted project. I was hoping to come back and do a residency as part of the mill project when COVID hit and we stayed in Costa Rica. They graciously agreed to provide production for it if we would record it, and it was originally posted by the mill at Vicksburg. So we got to give them a lot of credit for doing that.
Tremendous community development, isn't it? Well, let's move on to final comments, starting with you, Jennifer. Again, thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Well, kind of just where we're leading into, I have my shirt here. It's Support Michigan Music. And this is through a Michigan Music Alliance organization that takes place obviously here in Michigan. And it's a really integral organization that's been developed, and it really focuses on music business and providing the support and services to educate people in the industry and also musicians about how to take care of their careers. And it's been a really big, amazing growth. And along with that is another thing called Local Spins, which is John Sinkovich's project. And it's the fastest growing online Michigan music magazine that really keeps people in tune. So, you know, I mean, go on about all these, so many things, but just trying to take a moment about Michigan and hopefully people really support their own communities and their own cities. I happen to be in Michigan and I happen to be in Kalamazoo. So I've been really impressed with what's been going on here, as well as a new foundation called the Roadie Clinic, which is in Niles, Michigan. And this is a group that basically supports the technical side, the roadies, so they call them, when they're touring on the road. And there's not a lot of mental health support, anything. And their theme is healthy road life, healthy home life. And it's absolutely incredible. Their theme is to exist to empower and heal roadies, their families, by providing resources and services tailored to the struggles of the touring lifestyle. And that's something that I just got in touch with the two husband and wife duo who actually have really amazing resume that's pretty mind-blowing. But the most important thing is that they're bringing this to Michigan and to the nation, that we have to really start taking care of each other. And so for me, this whole conversation with Paul, what he's doing, what you're doing, I just think this is a really positive, important thing to keep working and striving towards.
Boy, thank you. As you were talking there, I was thinking, well, for sure, we think about the gig economy where people are doing gigs and they don't have a lot of support otherwise, sometimes absolutely no health insurance. Roadies are engaging in the gig economy. And so it's just terrific that a not-for-profit organization, a foundation, is able to support that, because often people are out there by themselves, and it's really terrific. Thank you. Paul.
Well, I agree that there is a vibrant music scene that is growing, and it's growing across the whole planet. We have Playing for Change, for example, where they're recording snippets of a song in various countries with various artists and weaving it all together and then putting it online so that we can enjoy it and have a variety of ways to enjoy it. I see collaboration at all levels, but I really think it's important to collaborate in the place you are. You know, wherever you are, I think the back porch is a really good place to be. The front porch is a good place to be too. But I think that one positive side effect of COVID has been the sale of musical instruments. I went to a local guitar store in Battle Creek, Michigan that was nearly sold out, and they said that they've seen nothing like it because people want to stay home and play music. well, let's take that music out and let's play together as soon as we get past this. And let's have a grassroots all the way to the global level gathering.
Oh, really, really well said. I actually, Kathy, my wife and I, we attended several neighborhood concerts with local residents. Basically, people were social distancing with masks, and you were listening to local residents jam, and it was just terrific, absolutely terrific. Paul, we're not going to let you go before you talk about Trickified. It's really important. So,
Okay.
so let the audience know what Trickified is and where they can buy it.
Okay. Well, Trickified is a Caribbean term. It's a Caribbean slang term for something that's a little better than normal. If something is good, it could even good better, but if it's trickified, it's got something special. And my nickname is Poncho. And so I'm wearing this garb, the poncho, which I do most of the time. And trickified poncho means the musicians come together for us to make something special. So we do have a CD out there that's available in a lot of places. There's quite a few things online if people are interested. And we're hoping they'll be able to catch some live performances either in Costa Rica on the Caribbean this winter or next summer up here in the States.
Very good. And they're great holiday gifts too. I bought 3 recently and gave those out as holiday presents, and people really appreciated it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for what you do. Paul, Babladelis, thank you so much. Jennifer Hudson-Prenkert, thank you so much. And thank you all for watching this video and listening to the audio. We really enjoyed this. Music as change agent. Take care, everybody.
Michigan is a place where we love our water. We really do. We love our water, and we want healthy, good people. And so this next song is called the Not So Pure Michigan Blues. Pure Michigan, you made a big mess for people of Flint, and the lives you wrecked started when you changed the water supply. Money before human life, it was the Flint lead poison. It was the Flint lead poison. It was a Flint lead poison and not so pure Michigan blues. Now the people of Flint, they didn't have a say when the governor sent a manager to do things his way. Trust us, they said, we know what's best. Well, brothers and sisters, you know the rest. It was the Flint lead poison. Flint lead poison. It was the Flint lead poison. Flint lead poison. It was the Flint lead poison and not so pure Michigan blues. Now the people of Flint, they were caught in a trap. Only water they had came from their tap. The people in charge of keeping it clean put dollars and cents before human beings. It was the Flint lead poison. Lead poison. It was the Flint lead poison. It was a Flint lead poison and not so pure Michigan blues. Samples to analyze, but through some outside they were compromised. It cost too much to remove the lead, so they just changed the data instead. Now we call Michigan the Great Lakes State, and water is something we appreciate. So don't expect us to just stand by when you poison our water and tell us lies. It was the Flint lead poison. It was the Flint lead poison. It was the Flint lead poison and nights of your Michigan blues. Thank you.